10 Best Fantasy Romance Manhwa. Even though romance and fantasy are two of the most widely consumed media genres, they work even better together. Romance typically presents an idealistic connection and the prospects that come with it, as well as an overall good atmosphere and outlook. The prospect of pleasure and love is appealing to audiences. Character and storyline variation is increased by placing these themes in a fantastical environment. There's more space for intriguing conflict points or nuanced adversaries. These two genres complement each other because magical story features allow the themes and teachings of romance to be further developed or emphasized. 10. Roxana. The protagonist, Roxana Grish, the daughter of a villainous duke who has abducted the older brother of the original female lead, is suddenly stuck in the romance novel she is reading. As she's not the real Roxana, the main character chooses to keep him safe. She has to act just as cruelly as her father, though, in order to do it. This story, with two houses acting as mortal adversaries and two would-be lovers, is evocative of Romeo and Juliet. Nonetheless, because one of them is a prisoner to the other, Roxana and Cassis's love is even more terrible. They nevertheless come to trust one another. Their partnership feels more satisfying since both of their characters have so much depth. 9. Witch of Mine. Witches are typically described as malevolent entities that only think about themselves and enjoy cursing innocent people. People who are too beautiful or too knowledgeable in this tale are considered witches. They are lovely individuals who, despite dying, resurrect. They are also capable of manipulating memories and creating illusions. It is not about their power in this story. The topic is their sad love. They are destined to lose loved ones forever because they are everlasting beings. They cannot comprehend humans because they are not human. Hence, they will often act in ways that seem strange and improper for the people they care about. This brief manhwa does a fantastic job at capturing the expression of these feelings. Eight. Kabura. Kabura's life is drastically altered when her community is devastated by a red and gray monster, after she had lived in peace for 15 years. With the aid of Asha, a formidable magician, she manages to survive. Together, they make their getaway, and Kabura sets out on her quest for vengeance. She has no idea that she is a part of a larger scheme, the focal point that will decide the future of the entire planet. The majority of this manhwa involves action and adventure. There's a little romance. It's not elaborated upon, though, and it doesn't happen often. While Kabura is a fantastic adventure narrative about coming of age, other manhwa would be more appropriate. 7. The Remarried Empress. Navio is a formidable and self-assured empress renowned for her skill in both politics and administration. Everyone admires her for both her beauty and her artistic abilities. She is powerless to stop the emperor, though, so when he introduces a concubine, she is powerless too. Not even when someone pushes her out of her place. Although this manhwa is rather confusing due to its abundance of political fights and secrets, the relationships amongst all the characters are even more problematic. It resembles a spider web with a strand binding each person together. That's not to suggest the narrative isn't good. It's simply too much to take in. 6. Winterwoods. The tale of the Frankenstein monster is widely recognized. The doctor is killed by his creation as a result of his hubris. But what if the monster encountered a more sympathetic person rather than a callous scientist? El-10 is an artificial person with speech and mobility that is the result of numerous trials. Jane, a children's novelist, is handed him to test whether he can come alive as her career is struggling. A heartfelt tale of their mutual understanding development transpires. But the winter might not be too quiet with a serial killer on the run. 5. A Stepmother's Miracle. Shuli thought that after raising her stepchildren to adulthood, she would finally be able to relax. Sadly, her life ends abruptly, and she awakens many years later on the day of her husband's burial. Although her kids had never been fond of her, their hostility had reached its peak at this moment. This is not just a reenactment of historical events through time travel. The reason for Shuli's regression is unknown. It's a drama about family members who lost a loved one and are now scarred. Shuli and all the young men who are interested in her are in a romantic relationship. There are a lot of interesting things to explore in this manhwa. 4. Your throne. Shuli thought that after raising her stepchildren to adulthood, she would finally be able to relax. Sadly, her life ends abruptly, and she awakens many years later on the day of her husband's burial. Although her kids had never been fond of her, their hostility had reached its peak at this moment. This is not just a reenactment of historical events through time travel. The reason for Shuli's regression is unknown. It's a drama about family members who lost a loved one and are now scarred. Shuli and all the young men who are interested in her are in a romantic relationship. There are a lot of interesting things to explore in this manhwa. 3. Why Raeliana ended up at the Duke's mansion. The main character wakes up as Raeliana, a small noble lady who is a supporting character in a murder mystery book, after being shoved off a building. She naturally wants to avoid dying, so she begs the Duke for a contract before getting married. Regretfully, the Duke exhibits some dubious behavior and is not quite normal. This novel's romance moves slowly, but because the original story changed, there is more conflict to drive the romance along. Though not thoroughly explored, there is a background plotline involving the protagonist's first death. 2. Villains are destined to die. The protagonist was taken to a game that presented a genuine challenge to her after she had completed the hardest level of a well-known Otome game. She needs to have a happy ending with at least one of the male leads in order to become Penelope Eckhart. The issue is that Penelope is the villain who is despised by everyone, which makes her incredibly unlikable. Usually in situations like this, the gaming aspect is only a means to give the main character more strength, but in this case, it's most likely the major enemy. Events not only diverge from the original. 1. Who made me a princess? Athanasia is the emperor's forgotten princess who lives in a rundown palace with many servants who steal to enrich themselves. The main character is essentially a newborn when she is transferred into her body and has limited abilities. Even if Athi's death is inevitable at the conclusion of her book, she won't wait around for it. She begins storing money for a later time. She meets her father, Claude, by coincidence, and their relationship is mediocre at first. That's the main focus of the narrative. Although the romance plays a relatively little role in the novel, this narrative is highly respected due to its excellent writing, which portrays a dreamy relationship between a father and daughter. 'If you're new here and haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Join our channel for more related content in the future. Just hit that subscribe button below, and you won't miss a thing. And hey, if you have any questions, thoughts, or suggestions for future videos, feel free to drop them in the comments. I love hearing from you all. Alright, that's a wrap for today. Thanks for spending time with us, and until next time, stay